Our nation was founded on the concept of robust public dialogue, discussions between informed citizens on matters of public interest that would guide self-governance. The process was considered so essential to the success of our democratic republic that our nation's founders created the First Amendment in part to protect the process. There's great concern today about encouraging, or reinstituting, if you will, civility in those discussions, while also retaining a sense that all speakers are welcome and no viewpoint is too radical to be expressed. Freedom of expression and civility don't automatically collide. Rather, they're two elements that must be involved for an intelligent, thoughtful, and serious discussion, from the courtroom to the classroom, from Main Street to town hall meetings. But civility and freedom of expression can be at odds when bias and prejudice, anger and hostility, intimidation and threats take over discussions. We now live in a hyper-connected world, one in which anonymity is both impossible and yet also at times is a shield for the uncivil. Just check out any website that has a comment section. But we ought not to confuse civility with just being nice or being polite. The Association of Opinion Journalists, a group with a program that aims to encourage civil discussion throughout our society, points out that the Oxford American Dictionary traces civility to the Latin root civilitas, from civilis, relating to citizens, the state of being a citizen, of good citizenship. Now, there's nothing in the 45 words of the First Amendment that mentions, requires, expects anything less than robust, vigorous, and engaged discussion on matters of public interest. In fact, much of the law surrounding freedom of speech has been designed to protect what some would call the uncivil speaker, and often that's to the benefit of society. Consider the outcome if speech codes, rules of order, or such things had been used to shut down the suffragettes, to prevent them from upsetting the male-dominated mores of the time, or the use of civility statutes to silence early labor organizers, or to require anti-slavery protesters or civil rights marchers and speakers to make their points in polite terms. No doubt the targets of those demonstrators saw them in no other manner than uncivil, but freedom of expression guaranteed their right to speak out, even when they upset many, if not the majority, of the people who heard their message. Each of those examples, with views freely spoken and freely heard, touched the conscience of a nation and changed our society. They did so in tandem with legislative and executive initiatives and review by an independent judiciary. Yet, it seems we have lost our way in modern life when it comes to civil discourse. From interaction with our public officials.
You want me to answer the question? Yes. You stand there with a picture of the president, the face to look like Hitler, and compare the effort to increase health care to the Nazis. My answer to you is, as I said before, it is a tribute to the First Amendment that this kind of vile, contemptible nonsense is so freely propagated.
To respect for the role of a free press.
Sorry, I'm getting off. You're not. Whoa.
You had your time.
I'm a member of the media.
You had your time.
I'm a member. I'm a member of the media.
You're resisting arrest. Tell him when you get him up there, charge him resisting arrest. Yes, sir.
To the words and images we use to talk with one another.
You know, again, we're not here to defend or attack a particular faith. We're here to answer questions about how these folks and their expertise comes to bear. But I would go to question on this side.
Wait. He hadn't answered the question, sir. Do you accept or reject his teaching?
Sir, we're going to go to question on this side. He gave you an answer. Whether it's insufficient to you is...
What was the answer?
Go to question over here, please.
What was the answer?
You have false information,
Well,
sir.
you're saying that's not the teaching of Islam.
This is no. What
May we
you're
have a
saying is
question
not
here?
the teaching of Islam.
Organizations such as the courts traditionally have been seen as nonpartisan referees of our disputes and our laws. But no more. Critics today slam judges as partisan and courts as activist. Even when the court upholds freedom of expression in the public square, there are those who argue that certain images or voices ought to be stilled. In discussing civility, we ought to keep in mind the words of Chief Justice John Roberts in the 2011 court decision upholding Westboro Baptist Church's right to protest, even in a manner most Americans seem to find, at the very least, uncivil. Speech is powerful. It can stir people to action. move them to tears of joy and sorrow, and as it did here, inflict great pain. We cannot react to that pain by punishing the speaker. As a nation, we have chosen a different course: to protect even hurtful speech on public issues, to ensure that we do not stifle public debate. Perhaps the last place you might think civility would be an issue is inside the Supreme Court. Well, according to the women justices of that court, that wasn't always the case. From a discussion at the museum by the first 4 women to serve on the Supreme Court.
How important is civility in the work of the court? And
I think it's vital. I mean, it's a small group of 9.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's exceedingly important that everyone be polite and kind and pleasant to each other. I think that's vital. You have to disagree on the merits of things, but you can disagree agreeably. And I think that's very important, and the court does well on that score, I think.
With the words of Justice Roberts and the comments of his 4 colleagues in mind, let's move to our discussion of civility.